This is Forge Daily with Mackenzie Barwell on the Forge Audio Network.
Forge fans, welcome back to another episode of Forge Daily. Today is Monday, August 28th, 2023. I'm your host, Mackenzie Barwell, here to give you all things Forge FC. Yesterday, the team traveled back from Ottawa, so they will get the morning off today, but back out on the pitch tomorrow for training. In today's episode, you can expect a recap as to what went down on Saturday, as well as an inside look at the post-match press conference. Later on, we'll check in with the CPL standings and go over all of the updates that you need to be aware of following this weekend. But, just a disclaimer that I should mention, if I have more voice cracks than usual, it is because I'm losing my voice. As a student attending McMaster University, it is welcome week, so that is my excuse for having a slightly lost voice for this week of Forge Daily. But anyways, let's stay focused with Forge FC. A quick recap of the 2022 CPL final rematch. There's more to talk about in terms of what this result will mean for the remainder of the season and less about what actually happened during the match because, as you know, it ended in a 0-0 draw. However, in terms of changes for Forge FC starting lineup, we had Garvin Matusala, Abu Sissoko, and Reza Rama who would get the start. And there were a few chances early on for Forge. One in particular stood out to me, actually. It was the set piece off a corner kick from Kyle Becker. I've seen it in practice. Campbell just not able to make great contact with it, but perfect execution otherwise. Becker also had another good chance earlier in the first half. I'm sure you know the one I'm talking about. It was off a chip from Abu Sissoko. But ultimately, Nathan Ingham would get a hand on it to make the save. And he had a good match. I gotta give the credit to him. Now, prior to this game, both Forge and Atletico tied for third with 31 points. Ottawa coming in with some momentum, but looking back at last week, both Kyle and Coach Bobby spoke not only about disrupting their success, but more so recognizing that every game matters now, given how tight the table is. Coach Bobby went as far to say that, form essentially goes out the window, and any narrative between these two teams in particular should be erased ahead of this game because at the end of the day, either teams need 3 points and some separation in the standings. So although Forge had a good string of results against Ottawa going into the match, they really emphasized that it doesn't impact the way that the game unfolds. The focus was more so on Ottawa's style of play, knowing that they've been strong on a counterattack, and they tend to sit back in this lower defensive block. And this is exactly what we saw again. Kyle mentioned that in order to get them off their game, they have to make runs in behind. They have to be dynamic because, quote, being stagnant is when you become predictable. I thought that pretty much sums it up, so I thought I'd use his words exactly. But here's what Coach Bobby had to say at the post-match press conference regarding how well they were able to execute that plan.
No, I think they dropped back into that five and try and take away a lot of the spaces. I thought we should have been better in going a little bit in behind that space. Maybe we didn't do it enough. And sometimes it's a matter of personnel. We're missing two very creative players in that attacking part of the field in Chouanier and Borges, who are both unavailable today. That changes things up a little bit when you're playing. But I think, to be honest, we've gotten into the midfield pockets very well, where we thought they'd be able to congest that, and we did a very good job there. I think we just needed to have a little bit more forward momentum, a little bit more forward runs, and be a little bit more incisive with our passes and our runs. And we tried them, but they did a good job of cutting off a lot of that, especially in that tight back three that they had with the guys. We're at a point in the season, and if you look at the table, we know exactly what's at stake for both teams. These are games that you must win and you cannot lose. And those are tricky for both teams. And I think that's what you saw out there. I saw a game that you went through phases of each team, trying to break down one another, two very good defensive performances, maybe a couple of good chances per team. But I think in these games, it's like I said, these are matches you cannot lose, and maybe that's why the result is what it is.
We also heard from Dom Samuel. He talked about the importance of these remaining games and his overall thoughts on the matchup against Atletico.
I think we locked them down pretty well. Limited them to very few chances, let's say. First half, second half, a little bit more, but, that's just football.
These battles with Ottawa, they're always going to be like this.
heading towards like the last stretch of games, they're all going to be playoff games, especially with the points being so close. Everybody's looking to pick up maximum points, and like I said, every game's going to look like a playoff game.
With respect to the CPL table, this result between what were once the third and fourth placed team is one that Halifax, York, Pacific, and Cavalry will all be happy to see, as it leaves just a 3-point gap between second and sixth in the table. 4 teams now currently tied for second with 32 points: Forge, Atletico, Halifax, and Pacific. Sitting above them is Cavalry, who would earn another win against Pacific yesterday in a 1-0 victory. So they've given themselves a little bit of leeway with 36 points in comparison to the teams in that 4-way tie with 32. I kind of feel like a broken record now. This is why the end of the regular season promises to be so exciting. Still so much to play for with the regular season title and one of the 5 coveted playoff spots up for grabs. Bobby shared his thoughts on the current circumstances of the league at the press conference as well. Here's what he had to say.
Everyone's playing to try and be at the top and try and get themselves in the best position playoff wise. Get yourself as close as you can to the top to maybe get that Champions League spot. And I think I said it after last week, and with a couple of the results already this week, it's kind of like everyone's starting at zero, and we've got 7 games left, and whoever wins the most and goes on the best streak will be the one that finishes on the top and gets that automatic berth and sets up what will be a very exciting playoffs. But here's the thing, there's nothing guaranteed for anyone right now. No playoff spot, anything. Look throughout this season, and there's been weeks where a team's been ahead by 7 points. We may have been there somewhere earlier. Pacific's been there. Cavalry's been there. So it's all changed. So I wouldn't be surprised if things change from now until the games are done sometime in October.
On that note, we will wrap up today's episode. This week, we'll take more of a look into what to expect as the season dwindles down. And tomorrow, we've got an exciting announcement for the Spark Summit. Thank you all so much for listening once again, and I will talk to you then.
This has been Forge Daily with Mackenzie Barwell. If you like what you heard, please like, follow, subscribe, comment, and share.
I say that every time, whether it's here at York or wherever any supporters are able to travel. Obviously, it's easier with the 3 Ontario-based teams. But that's what we want to see. When you're talking about growth, it's players, it's competition, it's coaches, it's management in the clubs. And along with that, one of the most vital areas we need growth is the supporters and the fans. And, we love it. I think Ottawa's got a great group of fans here, and we like hearing what they have to say behind their bench. It's part of the game, and it's a beautiful part of the game from there. But when you have traveling support, I think it always makes it a little bit more special, not just to us as a team, but I think to the overall atmosphere that we have in the stadium and how the league looks to grow as we go forward. Hopefully, it becomes a point when this whole side is full and the other side has away fans, and vice versa when Ottawa visits Tim Hortons Field in the future.